Daybreak in the foothills and thick gray fog was everywhere. With such poor visibility, the travelers relied on their other senses. They smelled salty air, they felt sandy soil, they heard seagulls screeching and waves breaking, and then they heard the long, low note of a ship's horn. Hmm. Somewhere in the distance, hidden by the fog, was the ocean. As if to answer the ship, there came another long, low note. But there wasn't a horn, it was a howl. A wolf was following our friends. Brightbill beat his wings and squawked, "Mama, run!" Roz ran downhill, deeper into the gloom. Her feet stomped the sandy soil, leaving behind a trail of footprints. There was no time to hide her tracks, so she just kept running. Blurry shapes faded in and out of the fog, and her eyes darted around to see if there were rocks or bushes or wolves. But the robot should have watched where she was going. She slipped and thumped into the sand, and before she could get up, Shadow was on top of her. The wolf was heavy and strong. He pinned Roz to the ground and locked his teeth onto her tool belt. At last, he had caught his prey. Violently, wildly, he thrashed the robot from side to side. Roz tried to squirm free, but Shadow's grip was tight. There was only one thing to do. She reached down beside the wolf's snarling jaws and fumbled with the buckle, and suddenly she was loose. Shadow staggered backward, the belt dangling from his mouth as Roz stomped away. Brightbill had been circling overhead this whole time, and now he squawked desperate warnings to his mother. "Look out for those rocks! Shadow's gaining on you! There are buildings ahead!" Roz burst through a row of hedges and onto the main street of a seaside village. It was still early and it was still foggy, and Roz was halfway through the village before anyone saw her. A man had just left for his morning walk when the robot and the wolf came galloping down the street. The man decided his walk could wait, and he hurried back inside. Shadow swiped at Roz's heels, but the robot leaped away. She soared over a house and landed on the other side. The wolf dashed around the yard, only to see her leaping away once more. This time Roz landed in shallow water. Waves gently sloshed against her ankles. The robot backed into the ocean up to her waist and then automatically stopped. Her survival instincts wouldn't let her go any further. "There's nowhere left to run," Shadow growled as he prowled onto the beach. "Either fight or swim." Roz was trapped. Her body lurched forward and backward as her computer brain struggled to find an escape. And then Brightbill came to her rescue. "This way, Ma!" Roz didn't hesitate. She launched herself up from the shallows toward her son's voice. Salt water streamed off her body as she soared through the air. Then her feet pounded into the sand beside Brightbill, who was perched atop an old rowboat. By the time Shadow arrived, our friends were rowing away from shore. The wolf's face twisted with rage, and he howled from the water's edge. "You made a fool of me, Roz! My pack and my mate have left me. Now I'm just a worthless, lone wolf. All because of you." Well, readers, Roz felt sorry for Shadow. She never meant for any of this to happen. But she had her own troubles. The robot's greatest fear was deep water. And now she was paddling through the waves and out to sea. Chapter 63, The Rowboat. The sun was shining, the fog was thinning, the robot was rowing. Roz was no thief, and she didn't like taking that old rowboat, but judging from its appearance, it had been abandoned years ago. She hoped it wouldn't be missed. Anybody who's rowed one of these boats knows you're supposed to face backward. That can make it tough to see where you're going. This wasn't a problem for Roz, however. She started off rowing normally, and after several strokes of the oars, her head spun around until she was facing forward. And what she saw was blue sky, and dark waves, and a sliver of green on the horizon. "We're in a bay," said Brightbill, swooping down into the boat. "To the north is that distant coastline. To the east is open water. To the west is a seaport, and to the south is the village and the wolf." It seemed to be the travelers had no choice but to cross the bay. Luckily, Roz could row long and fast. Brightbill settled in for the ride, and the robot's mechanical muscles started pumping. She pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled on the oars, and the rowboat, glided through the waves. Roz was nervous. Time and again, the robot's survival instincts had stopped her from going into deep water. Now, an old rowboat was all that separated her from the murky depths. She couldn't wait to feel solid ground beneath her feet again. As they rowed deeper into the bay, the waves got larger and rougher. Gigantic swells of water rolled in from the open ocean and started tossing the boat around like a toy. The waves finally became too much for Bright Bill. He spread his wings, lifted up on the breeze, and anxiously looked at the choppy surf ahead. "Row faster!" he squawked. "I don't know how much more the boat can take." Roz tried to power through. She rowed faster and faster until the boat was skimming across the water. Too fast. The left oar snapped, then the right, and suddenly the boat was at the mercy of the waves. "Hold on, Ma!" cried the goose. "Here comes a big one!" The rowboat was pulled up the side of a towering wall of water. It teetered at the top, and then the boat went crashing down the other side with such force that the whole thing splintered apart. Roz felt water surging up around her. She clung to debris and kicked her legs, but she wouldn't stay afloat for long. The robot began to sink. The goose floated above. The ocean rolled and sloshed. Then there was a sudden burst of air from somewhere nearby. Bright Bill looked toward the noise, but saw only sea spray drifting on the breeze. And when he looked back to his mother, she was dipping below the surface. "What can I do, Ma?" Bright Bill cried from the air. "Tell me what to do." "There is nothing more you can do," came Roz's gargling voice. "I am sorry." The young goose could only watch as the ocean dragged the robot down, down, down.